Hello and welcome to this short video where I'm just going to show you how to transfer your line art down onto your pastel paper. Now, when you receive your line art, all you need to do is print that off just on plain printer paper. And then I like to just cut it down around the subject, around the line art, just so it's more of a manageable size. Now obviously if you were ever doing a line art that you needed to allow for some background and things like that, you would make it bigger. But for this little one here, this is just going to be sort of front and center on the page. So all you need to do is just turn that over so that you're now looking at the back of the paper. Now, because this is a lighter subject, this specific little bunny, I'm going to use a pastel pencil. Now, you can use a pastel stick, and you can also use a graphite pencil, which is actually one of my preferred methods. But for this tutorial, I'll show you using the pastel pencil. All you need to do, and obviously probably white's your best option, as opposed to coming in with, you wouldn't come in with a black, for example. Otherwise, you'd be just as well using the graphite pencil. So you just want to draw along the lines of that line art that you can see sort of shining through the back of that paper. Now, I wouldn't use a pencil if I was doing a large line art. And just the reason for that is, these pastel pencils, aren't necessarily cheap. And the last thing I want to be doing is, using up all of that pigment on a line art. So we just go all the way around. And you just obviously want to kind of remember where you've been, because especially with the white, it is a little bit harder to see. I mean, what you can do in the more sort of detailed areas is just come across like that if you wanted to. So whatever sort of works best for you, as long as you are making sure that those lines actually have pigment on them. Because when we turn this paper back over, we're going to draw along those lines, and of course that's then going to transfer that pigment onto our paper. So just take your time with it. Again, just have a good look and make sure that you've got all of those lines. Like I said, if you're ever unsure, you can always just come across lightly with that pencil. You don't need to press hard here either. You're just depositing a bit of that pigment. Okay, so then what we need to do is we need to then turn it back over so it's the right way up. Now, position it on your paper, and for this one here, I'm just going to pop it sort of a little bit lower. I want to make sure, obviously, that you're fitting it onto your page. I think that'll work quite well. And then just grab yourself a little piece of tape. I just use a little bit of masking tape. And you want to tape it in that corner up here. And then I like to put a little bit just down the side here as well. Just because you want to hold that paper in place. You don't want to be sort of moving it and then you'll never get it lined back up again. Then all I do is I'll just take just a normal biro pen. I like to use the ones with these different colours because then I can choose the colour I'm going over the lines with, and it just sort of lets me see which lines I've popped down. And all we do then is just go over the top of that drawing. Now you don't want to press hard here. You don't need to press hard. So we'll just come around. And then what I like to do is I like to just lift that corner, pull that paper back, and you can see that you've got the pigment going down. So we'll just slowly just work our way around. Trying to be as accurate as we can. And like I said, exactly the same would apply if you had used the graphite. The reason I like using the graphite is because, graphite pencils are, reasonably cheap. You can just go over the whole of the back of your drawing with a graphite pencil and then do exactly the same process as I'm doing here, and then that transfers that line onto your paper. Now, like I said, the only things you've got to take into consideration if you are going to use the graphite pencil is here, you don't want to be pressing too hard, and also the pencil you use on the back of your paper. Like I say, I've found that you don't run into any issues as long as you use one of the softer pencils. So just like I said, make sure that it's maybe a 6B or maybe a 7B pencil, and that would work really well. If you are sort of transferring the line art on a lighter subject, like this little bunny that's got a lot of white, then I would suggest that you use either the pastel pencil. You can get white transfer paper that you can just lay down in between, so that works as well. Or like I said, you can also use a soft pastel stick. I tend not to use a soft pastel stick a lot, for the sole reason is it does put a lot of pigment down on your paper. And some people that might not bother them, but I like to have my paper reasonably sort of neat and clean before I start. Now, of course, you can lift any loose pigment off with a kneadable eraser. So it's really not that big an issue. So again, we're just almost done. Take your time when you're transferring your line art as well. Don't rush this process either. And then all we do again is we'll just flip that over, and then you can see there, we'll pull it right back so you can see the ear. So that's our little bunny transferred onto that paper. And like I said, if you put those little pieces of masking tape on the side, it allows you to do that and pull it back. And if you have missed a little section, you can then fold it back over and you haven't moved your line art. So I'm happy that that's all been transferred properly. So all you do then is just remove that from your page. And then, like I said, if you do find that you have a bit of pigment that's just gone on to your paper where you don't really want it, you can just get a kneadable eraser, or a putty eraser they're called, and then you can just dab that on those areas like so, and lift off any of that pigment. Now, if you do want to use a graphite pencil, like I suggested as well, then the same would apply. If you've done this and you feel that your graphite lines are maybe a little bit too dark, you can use these putty erasers as well and just dab along the line, and that will remove that pigment and lighten that up for you. So there is a few different options. But for small little subjects like this, I think the actual pastel pencil works really, really well. So there you go. That's just a quick little demonstration on how to get that line art down on your paper so that you're ready to actually start creating your first little masterpiece.